Shopping with Ashley all day. Home late, she wrote, like she was texting about picking up almond milk. No punctuation, no warmth. Just another empty line in a long thread of dead tone. I read it once, then again, slower. Ashley's husband and I had grilled steaks in his backyard last month. We talked about lawn care, power tools, and how Ashley had flown to Scottsdale for the week to help her sister with the twins, a 6-day trip, return flight Friday. Today was Wednesday, so unless my wife had mastered quantum teleportation, she hadn't been anywhere near Ashley. I didn't rage, didn't text back liar, just stared at her message and typed a single sentence. Tell Ashley's husband I said hi. And then I waited. No typing bubble, no reply. 11 minutes later, the door slammed open like a kicked-in confession. She was standing in the entryway, chest heaving, hair messy, not windblown, just rushed, her left shoe half off, shopping bags in hand, and no smile. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out, not even a fake "hey babe." Just a pause. I looked at her wrist. The thin gold bracelet she wore wasn't hers. I knew because I remembered Ashley wearing it to the company gala last spring, the one where I stood next to her husband while my wife and Ashley got tipsy on overpriced champagne. Ashley had joked about that bracelet, called it her divorce gift to self, one of a kind, custom clasp, I remember, because I fixated on how expensive it must have been. Now it was on my wife's wrist. I didn't stand, didn't raise my voice, just said, "You left your car running." She blinked. "What?" "Outside," I said calmly. "You left the engine on. Or did you think you'd be leaving again soon?" She set the bags down. One of them toppled, a pink bag from some boutique in the next city over. I could see the black lace poking out from the edge. Still, I didn't raise my voice. "Interesting choice for a shopping day with a mom of 3, I murmured. "Did you two swing by the lingerie store between soccer practices?" And she stuttered. It's not what you're thinking." I smiled, not a warm smile, not a kind one. Just quiet confirmation that she'd lost control of the narrative. "You don't know what I'm thinking." She moved to close the door. I let her. She kept glancing at me, waiting for the explosion, but I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction. Anger is energy, and I was conserving mine. I let the silence thicken, like fog rolling in over a frozen lake. The TV was still on behind me. Some fishing show with a guy yelling about trout. It felt absurd. She stood in that silence, every second making her bracelet heavier, her perfume louder, her alibi thinner. If you're still listening by now, take a second to tap that subscribe button. More than 97% of you don't, and frankly, it motivates the team to keep going, digging, exposing. It matters. She started talking, rambling, really. Ashley came back early. I didn't even know until this morning. She surprised me. I raised an eyebrow. And surprised her husband too, I bet. She shifted on her feet. "Why would you say that?" "I don't know," I said, feigning innocence. Maybe because he told me she wasn't due back until Friday. Maybe because of the bracelet. Maybe because of that receipt I saw in your glove box last week. Marriott 2 nights, room service for 2, salmon and whiskey. Now she looked panicked. I hadn't even meant to find that receipt. I'd been looking for my sunglasses. But once I saw it, I left it right where I found it. Like a trap, a little breadcrumb of guilt. I didn't even check the dates until tonight when she texted, and they matched perfectly. She tried to take a step toward me. I stood. Her voice softened. "Are you really going to assume the worst?" "No," I said. "I'm going to confirm it," very quietly. Her face twitched like she wanted to cry but knew it wouldn't help. She reached for the bags. I let her. She clutched them like a shield, as if silk and plastic could protect her from what she'd done. I walked toward the kitchen and poured myself a drink. Neat, slow, she didn't follow. Behind me, I heard her mutter, "You're just being paranoid. It's all your work stress. You're imagining things." I took a sip, then turned around. "Right, I imagine Marriott bills into your glove compartment. I imagine Ashley's bracelet teleporting onto your wrist. And I imagine you needing space every other Thursday when he's conveniently in town." She flinched like I'd struck her, though I never raised a hand. I never would. "You're twisting things," she hissed. "Not yet," I said, eyes cold. "But I will." She stood frozen in the middle of the living room. No longer the confident liar, just a woman realizing she was now playing a game she didn't even know had started. I went upstairs without another word, not slamming doors, not raising hell. That part comes later. The game had flipped, and I play long. She followed me up the stairs like a child trying to explain a broken vase before Mom and Dad noticed. "Okay, listen. Ashley did fly out, yes, but she came back early. Her sister's kid got sick. I didn't want to bother you with details. You were swamped with that audit, and she trailed off when I turned around, still holding the glass in my hand. Cut the reel, I said. Her jaw tensed. Excuse me? I said cut the reel. You're not auditioning for pity. We're past that. Her eyes darted, searching for cracks in me, a way back in. Then came the flood. I didn't even plan to go out today, but Ashley called. Said she landed early, wanted to surprise me. We just hit the mall. I was going to tell you. I interrupted her with one sentence. Calm. Deadly. I hope the bracelet was worth it. She blinked like I'd short-circuited her entire defense strategy. What? I tilted my head. The one on your wrist. It's not yours, it's Ashley's. Her hand instinctively moved to cover it. It caught my eye, I said, stepping a little closer. Because I saw it before. Company gala, spring fundraiser. Remember that night? You wore that backless blue dress you said made your shoulders look intimidating. She didn't speak. I was talking with Ashley's husband. She walked over. You two did that fake laugh thing you do when you're pretending you've never gossiped about each other. I noticed the bracelet then, gold, twisted in a double loop, little black opal at the clasp. Her fingers dropped away from the bracelet slowly. Not denial, not shock, just the slow horror of knowing she didn't have a way out. You're being ridiculous, she muttered, voice quieter now. You think I stole it from her? No, I said, I think you borrowed it, or maybe it was a gift. Or maybe you weren't with Ashley at all today. Maybe you were with someone who took it off Ashley after a night she doesn't know about. Now she looked furious, which frankly was hilarious. Like a burglar getting mad you walked into your own home too early. This is insane, she snapped. You're spinning conspiracy theories because you're jealous or insecure or whatever. You've been distant for months, and now suddenly you're interested in bracelets? I'm interested in patterns, I said flatly. And yours keep repeating. She rolled her eyes like that made me the crazy one, like this was all overreaction. Then she turned and headed to the bedroom. I heard drawers open, closet doors. The performance of normal life. Except her steps were too quick, her movements too loud. She was scrambling, probably texting him the minute she got a second alone, warning him I was onto something, or begging him to delete something. That's how they operate, not from a place of love, from a place of damage control. I sat on the stairs, glass half full, and stared at the entryway. The pink boutique bag still lay on its side. I picked it up, just curious. A receipt was still inside. The boutique's name, today's date, timestamp 1:46 p.m. Lingerie, perfume, and most notably, men's fragrance travel size. We both knew I haven't worn cologne since 2017. It gives me migraines. She knows that too. Used to mock me for it. So, who was the cologne for? I set the receipt back exactly where it was. Let her think I hadn't looked yet. Let her build herself deeper into the lie. When she came back out of the room, freshly changed into sweatpants and one of my old college hoodies, her go-to outfit for fake vulnerability, I was still seated calmly, sipping. She glanced at the pink bag. I didn't say a word, but my eyes said everything. She opened her mouth, hesitated, then tried again. You think I'm cheating on you because of a bracelet and some perfume? No, I said. I think you're insulting my intelligence because you're scared. She crossed her arms. I'm not scared of you. No, I said again. You're scared of what I know that you don't know I know. That one landed. It always does, because it introduces the real weapon. Uncertainty, not rage, not heartbreak, just the unbearable unknown. How much have I seen? What did I find? Who else knows? Did Ashley say something? Her husband? Her face tightened. What do you want me to say? Nothing, I said, standing. I prefer honesty and silence over lies and stereo. I went back down, rinsed my glass, and started dinner. She didn't follow. She stood there like a mannequin in my hoodie, not realizing the temperature in the house had dropped 5 degrees, not because the thermostat changed, but because I had. And once the warmth goes, it never comes back the same. The smell of bacon didn't fool me. That next morning, she was already in the kitchen when I came downstairs, like some Stepford resurrection. Plates set, music low, bacon, eggs, even fresh squeezed orange juice, probably from the same store where she bought that perfume she hadn't planned to explain. Good morning, she said too brightly. I stared at the plate. You've never made breakfast on a weekday. She laughed awkwardly. Thought I'd switch things up, reset the tone. Reset the tone. cute. I poured myself coffee, sat across from her, ate slowly, methodically. Not a word. She was trying to reclaim control through domesticity, as if toast could patch a cracked foundation. I let her talk, weather, traffic, the neighbor's ugly new mailbox, and gave her nothing but the occasional nod. I didn't ask why she'd changed her lock screen to a quote about forgiveness. Didn't ask why her Apple Watch buzzed every time she mentioned Ashley's name. Didn't ask why the pink bag was no longer at the door, but the boutique receipt was missing from the kitchen trash. I'd already taken a photo of it the night before. By 10 o'clock a.m., I was in my home office, not working, planning. I pulled up our joint accounts, downloaded full statements, all the way back to last December, when she first started working weekends again. She'd taken out small ATM withdrawals, $200 here, $300 there, but from different banks, different parts of town. Sometimes the same day, she claimed to be volunteering or meeting college friends. There were Uber charges too, odd ones. One trip began 2 blocks from the Marriott and ended outside a wine bar she'd never mentioned. I traced the pattern over coffee refills. I wasn't looking for drama. I was looking for leverage, not the kind you use in a fight, but the kind that tightens when they think you're still hugging them. Then I emailed our financial advisor, asked for a quiet audit of our portfolio. Specifically, I wanted clarity on what was protected, what was inherited, what was jointly liable. I added a final note, please keep this confidential. By noon, she brought in a sandwich. Turkey and Havarti, your favorite. Thanks. I didn't look up from my screen. She lingered. You okay? I finally looked at her. Just thinking. About? Patterns. She flinched, almost imperceptibly, then smiled. Well, if you want to talk, I don't. She nodded and backed out like I was a bear she didn't want to wake. That evening, she was all soft tones and vintage sitcoms, sitting on the couch, blanket tucked under her legs like we were still in that part of marriage where cuddling meant anything. When I came down with a pillow and spare sheet under my arm, she looked up, confused. I didn't make a speech. Just said, I need space to think. Wait, what? You're sleeping downstairs? I shrugged. You seem stressed. I figured we both could use the breathing room. She stood up, halfway too indignant, but caught herself. This is ridiculous. One weird day and you're making it a thing. No, I said, heading down the hallway. You made it a thing. I'm just not pretending it's not anymore. In the guest room, the sheets still smelled like detergent and disuse. I didn't care. I slept with my back to the door and my phone face down. She didn't knock. That would have meant admitting the silence mattered. The next few days followed a similar script. She acted like we were still in it, asking if I wanted to go for a walk, sending me funny links, texting me from the living room like some digital olive branch. I responded like a man in polite conversation with a stranger he once knew. Short replies, no warmth, no anger, just space, and she mistook my calm for confusion, but I wasn't confused. I was already exiting the burning house, just doing it quietly, room by room, while she kept trying to light scented candles. And the funny thing, she actually believed she was regaining ground, that the coffee she brewed in the morning or the casual texts about remember this trip were working, but I had already backed up everything I needed. Bank records, phone logs, photos of the bracelet, screen grabs of the boutique order confirmation, which she never deleted from her inbox, by the way. I even took a photo of the cologne bottle sitting in her purse. She'd forgotten to remove it, still unopened. Brand new. Just like the lingerie, there's a silence that screams, but there's another one that cuts. And that's the one I gave her. 3 days after her bacon and forgiveness routine began, I gave her a little gift. I left the house that morning like usual, button-down shirt, laptop bag over my shoulder, thermos in hand. Kissed her on the cheek. She flinched slightly, probably because I hadn't done that in days. It wasn't affection, it was theater, for her benefit, for the script she was writing in her head, where things were slowly going back to normal. I even said, don't wait up, on my way out the door. Then I circled the block, parked across the street, walked 2 houses down to Greg's place. He was out of town, let me use his home office. From there, I watched, waited. At exactly 10:42 a.m., she walked past the front window, coffee in one hand, phone in the other. I knew the routine by now. She thought I was at the office. She thought she had time. Back home, on my desktop, I left one folder open, labeled in bold caps, Joint Assets, for review. The kind of thing that screams boring, yet hums with danger when someone knows they've been sloppy. Inside the folder, screenshots, dozens of them. I'd taken the time to align them neatly by date. Jewelry purchases on the Amex, items never delivered to our home. Hotel invoices under her rewards account. Different city, midweek, charges for 2 breakfasts. A car rental 2 counties over. All dated to nights I remember being home alone while she texted she was with Ashley, or staying late to help a client prep for a pitch. There was even a screenshot of a Venmo transaction, her sending $120 with the pizza emoji and the message, "Next time's on me," to a man I didn't recognize, no last name, just a username and a smiley face. I found his profile later, personal trainer, private account, no photos of her, but several scenic shots at a particular cabin in the woods. A cabin I remembered from one of her Facebook posts last winter, captioned, "Ashley and I needed a girl's reset." The pattern wasn't just clear, it was arrogant, sloppy, entitled. I knew her well enough to know she wouldn't be able to resist, not when she saw that folder. Curiosity and fear have a way of pulling people straight into their own reckoning. I waited across the street until noon, long enough. When I came back in, she was in the kitchen again. Same soft playlist playing, same fake casual tone. "Hey," she said, I noticed you left your computer on." "Oh?" "Yeah, the screen was open. I didn't mean to snoop, I just thought it might be private." I nodded, pouring coffee. "It was." She hesitated. "Right, yeah, I didn't click on anything, just saw the folder name." I looked up from my mug. "That's interesting, because I never said there was a folder." Her lips parted slightly, just like they had when she saw that pink bag slip open days earlier. There it was, that flicker. The shift from arrogant recovery mode to full-bellied dread. She turned away and busied herself with rinsing a glass that didn't need rinsing, hands trembling slightly. I didn't press her. I didn't need to. That silence, it did more damage than 1,000 accusations. Because now she wasn't just wondering what I knew. She was wondering what I had. She didn't ask any more questions that day, didn't try to text Ashley, didn't mention resetting the tone. In fact, she barely spoke at all. And that night, she didn't even attempt to come to the guest room, didn't ask why I left again before sunrise the next morning. Just let me go. But her eyes had changed. She no longer looked like a woman defending her innocence, and she looked like someone trapped in a game whose rules were no longer hers. And the locked folder, it was never really locked. It just sat there, open, like a mirror, waiting for her to finally see what I'd already known. This wasn't about a single lie. This was an autopsy. And her name was already on the toe tag. That evening, the house was quieter than usual. No music, no simmering pans on the stove, no passive-aggressive humming from the kitchen while she pretended to be unbothered, just the sound of her pacing upstairs, her steps uneven, sometimes pausing near the window as if she were expecting someone to drive up and fix it all. I sat in the living room, scrolling idly through my phone, pretending not to notice her nerves curling tighter by the hour. Then I heard her voice, low, clipped. She was on the phone with him. I didn't need to strain to hear. The walls in this house have a funny way of remembering conversations long after they're done. "Ashley," she whispered. "Is she there?" A pause. Can I talk to her?" Longer pause. Her voice started cracking. "She didn't know I used her name. I didn't think..." Then the shift. A male voice. Flat, measured, controlled. "You shouldn't have dragged her name into this." Dead silence. Then, "She left you out of it. That was our deal." Click. No goodbye. No defense. Just the flat tone of someone who had nothing left to lose by telling the truth. She stood there with the phone pressed against her ear for at least a full minute after the call had already ended. Like maybe if she stood still enough, the universe would reverse the conversation, rewind the last 5 days, let her try again with a better lie. When she finally came downstairs, her expression was different, not guilty, not panic, alone, the same kind of alone you see in people after a funeral, when everyone else has left and it's just them, the photos, and the flowers that are already starting to wilt. I didn't speak. I was in the hallway, zipping up a small bag. I didn't bother hiding it. She opened her mouth. I didn't give her the chance. "Business trip," I said. "Short one." "Where?" "Does it matter?" Her eyes flinched at the question, not the words, the tone. This was no longer a husband who was confused or sad or trying to work it out. This was a man who'd checked out of her story entirely. She reached for the banister. "You're leaving?" I grabbed the handle of the bag. You already did. The irony stung. She didn't reply, just stared like someone watching a slow leak in a lifeboat and realizing the ocean was colder than they thought. I walked past her, keys in hand. No suitcase, she tried. Just one bag. Just the essentials. I left before sunrise, didn't say goodbye, didn't lock the door behind me. She could stay in that shell of a house and keep pretending the walls hadn't heard everything. On the road, I passed the gas station where she used to text me to pick up snacks after her so-called client dinners. I smiled as I drove past it this time. There'd be no more texts, no more Ashley, no more lifelines. Because the one person she thought would cover for her had already signed her out of his narrative. She thought she was clever, building an affair behind another woman's name. But what happens when the shield talks? When the friend stops covering? When the lie isolates you so completely, even your co-conspirator decides you're not worth the fallout. You hear a click, and then you stare at a phone for a long, long time and realize you're not part of anyone's deal anymore. The hotel lobby smelled like lemon oil and executive detachment, clean, neutral, the kind of place where men like me disappear for a few days without anyone asking why. I checked in under my name using the business card for my consulting LLC. She didn't even know that company existed. It wasn't a secret, just not a detail she ever cared to ask about. Room 512, corner suite. Enough distance from the elevator to avoid overhearing other people's lives. At 9:30 a.m., there was a knock at the door. "Michael Grant?" the man asked. "That's me." He extended a hand. "Walter Trammell. Good to meet you in person." Walter was the kind of lawyer who didn't blink too often. His voice had the soft cruelty of someone who had seen hundreds of marriages expire and never once flinched. Not jaded, just practiced, like a surgeon talking about how many knees he'd replaced this year. We sat at the room's small dining table. He laid out the folder, stamped, organized, and tabs color-coded. "You want coffee?" I asked. "No, I'm here to do 3 things. Confirm the coverage, walk you through the asset protections, and prepare you for her first move." I liked him instantly. We started with the coverage. "You said this wasn't in response to her infidelity?" he asked, already knowing the answer. "No," I said. "This started 6 months ago, right after her girls' trip to Miami where her phone mysteriously stopped working for 2 full days." He smirked. "So preemptive. Pattern recognition." He slid a page across the table. Clause 14, the updated addendum. Infidelity triggers reversion to premarital assets. Inherited property is ring-fenced. Retirement is ring-fenced. Anything titled solely in your name is locked. Joint property, split only if there's no moral clause breach. And infidelity counts as breach? He nodded. "So does misrepresentation of finances, by the way, which I believe you flagged in March?" I did. She'd moved $9,400 from our joint emergency account to her personal checking, citing a medical bill mix-up. I'd let it go at the time. I didn't even argue, just made a note. "And she signed this?" I asked, holding up the page. "During the mortgage refinance packet, we buried it in the disclosures under updated spousal financial acknowledgement. She initialed each page, time-stamped, witnessed by a notary." "Did she read it?" He snorted. She glanced. She asked about the interest rate, didn't blink at the rest. I sat back, letting it settle. The idea that she had walked headfirst into the very minefield she helped lay. She wanted that refinance. Wanted the kitchen remodel, wanted the dual shower, and the heated floors, and the marble counters she could post on Instagram. And to get it, she signed the paper she never read. "She's gonna say she didn't understand," I said. "She'll be wrong," he replied. There was something deeply satisfying about how undramatic it all was. No flames, no shouting, just tidy lines and signatures, legal shovels, digging trenches while she played at power dynamics back home. He tapped the final tab in the folder. "This one's your hammer. Quiet, clean, even final." It was a notarized letter stating that upon presentation of evidence of infidelity, photos, receipts, testimony, she forfeits any claim to post-separation spousal support. "She thinks she's entitled to a slice of everything," I said. "She was," he said, "until she sliced herself out." I signed where he pointed, initialed twice, dated it. "I'll have my paralegal courier these to her attorney once you give the green light," he said, standing. "You don't need to deliver anything yourself. Let her get the news from someone she can't manipulate." That was the thing about this kind of revenge. It didn't roar. It didn't throw dishes. It didn't storm out in the rain yelling obscenities. It whispered, in certified mail, in trust protections, in pre-scheduled contingencies that click into place like a chessboard trap. As he packed up, I asked, what happens if she tries to play the victim? He smiled. Then she's going to learn just how unsympathetic the system is to someone holding a smoking gun in a white dress. He left at 10:15. I sat in the quiet, the legal folder beside me, my coffee growing cold. She was probably back at the house, texting herself into circles, maybe rehearsing another soft apology, maybe Googling how to fix a marriage after lying, or maybe just curling her hair thinking she still had time. But she didn't. She'd already lost, not because I caught her, but because months ago I stopped trusting her and quietly made sure I wouldn't have to ever again. When I pulled into the driveway late Sunday evening, the porch light was on, brighter than usual. From the curb, I could already tell she'd turned the house into a stage set. All the signs were there, soft lighting glowing through the blinds, our date night playlist humming faintly through the open kitchen window. And when I stepped inside, she was barefoot, wearing that slate gray wrap dress I once told her made her look like she ran the world. Hair curled, a bottle of wine open, 2 glasses waiting on the counter. The smell of something buttery filled the air, garlic knots maybe, or whatever she thought nostalgia tasted like. The entire scene was fake. The scent, the sound, the dress, all of it part of a desperate rewrite. Hey, she said, like it hadn't been a week since her affair cracked open on my living room floor. Thought you could use some good food. A little normal. I stood in the entryway, coat still on, watching her try to script us back to season 1. She poured a glass of wine, held it out. Cabernet, from that vineyard in Oregon we used to love. I didn't take it. I didn't mean to hurt you, she added, quieter now. I was confused. You've been so distant for a long time, and I held up a hand. Her words hung in the air, mid-rehearsed. I pulled the manila envelope from my coat pocket and set it on the table between us. No fanfare, no speech, just the envelope. She stared at it like it might bite her. Then slowly, so slowly, she reached for it, slid the clasp open, and pulled out the contents. Pages, drafted property separation, reviewed by legal, marked clearly, in red ink with allocation breakdowns. Her car, my condo, division of non-inherited assets, a single highlighted note in the margin. Clause 14 activated, joint holdings under dispute pending verification of misconduct. Her eyes scanned the first few pages. The color drained from her cheeks. She dropped onto the bar stool like her knees had forgotten their function. I don't understand. No, I said, you understood. You just didn't expect. Tears welled fast. She shook her head. I thought we could talk, rebuild. I made mistakes, yes, but this is nuclear. You brought fire to the foundation, I said. I'm just showing you the blueprints. She blinked rapidly, tears now clinging to her lashes. Is this final? I looked at her, not with hate, not even with anger, with indifference. No, I said, that's just the start. Her hands trembled as she placed the papers down. Her shoulders sagged. It was the first time I'd seen her look truly small in this house. Not because she lost, but because she realized she wasn't even in the director's chair anymore. The lights, the wine, the candles, the curated playlist, it had all been her desperate attempt to take back authorship, to wrestle the narrative away from me, make this a redemption arc. But that envelope, it told a different story, a colder one, quieter, more final, the kind where she was no longer the center, just a character with diminishing lines. I never meant for it to go this far, she whispered, eyes darting around like they could find an escape route hidden behind the dish rack or the wine opener. I said nothing, because the truth is, it had already gone further than she ever imagined. Not when she first lied, not when she slipped the bracelet on her wrist, but when she assumed I was just another man who would accept the rewrite, that I'd play the role of the hurt but hopeful husband, willing to forget, to rebuild, to drink her wine and buy into her candlelit delusion. But that man, he'd left the moment she dragged someone else's name into our house, into our finances, into our future. I wasn't playing anymore. She wasn't narrating anymore. The story had a new voice now. Mine. She didn't scream when I left that morning. She didn't beg. Didn't chase the car down the driveway like some movie cliche, but I could feel the shift, the tremor behind her glassy-eyed silence. It wasn't sadness, it was calculation, like she was already drafting plan B, because that's what she does when things slip. She leans into the performance. She rewrites the facts, packages the pain, and sells it to anyone willing to nod and say, "You poor thing." But this time, the audience didn't clap. She started with my sister, called her cell twice, then left a voicemail with a trembling voice, the kind that says, "He's not well. He's acting out. I'm scared for him." My sister texted back, "I don't discuss Michael's personal life. Please don't contact me again." She tried again, left another message, a longer one, rambling, tearful, then silence. Next was Ben, my best friend since college. She hated Ben, said he was too blunt, which is code for he sees through me. She called him, expecting what exactly? That he'd pick up and rush over with a six-pack and talk me down from my irrational behavior? Ben let it ring out, then blocked her number. An hour later, she called my boss. My boss claimed I was having a breakdown, that I was suddenly making irrational financial decisions, and might need someone to check in on me. He responded with a polite professional email. "Appreciate the concern. Michael has full control over his schedule and has shown no signs of distress. Also, we don't discuss employees' personal matters with third parties. Kindly refrain from contacting this office again." That was the moment it hit her. No one was coming, not for comfort, not for information, not even for gossip. She'd been systematically, quietly, surgically removed from the inner ring, not just blocked, erased. Months ago, I started the process. I told them what I was seeing, not with drama, but with precision, just enough to inoculate them against her future pity plays. "If she calls," I said, "don't engage. I'm handling it. It's clean. It's legal. It's final." They all agreed, not because they hated her, but because they'd seen the cracks long before I admitted them to myself. She wasn't shut out. She'd already been written out. But she didn't give up. No, she took it online next. A vague Facebook status. Some people turned cold because they were never warm to begin with. Betrayal is quiet. A filtered photo of herself looking pensive in front of our fireplace captioned, "Rebuilding. Brick by painful brick." She got likes, a few comments. "Stay strong, babe. DM me if you need anything." Men suck, but not a single reply from anyone who knew me, not one voice from our circle, not even her so-called girls group. Silence. She posted again the next morning. "Silence is cruelty. I just wanted honesty." She got fewer likes. By the third post, she turned the comments off, because sympathy only works when the audience doesn't know the script, and everyone who mattered already had a copy of the ending. She called a few more people after that, my former coworker, our old neighbor, even a couple of friends from her book club. Most didn't answer. The one that did said flatly, "I think you should speak to your lawyer, not his friends." That one hit her hard. She stormed into the kitchen that night, holding her phone like it had betrayed her. "Did you tell them to block me?" "No," I said. "I told them the truth. Blocking you was their idea." Her hands shook. "You've isolated me." "No," I corrected. "You did that. I just stopped protecting you from the consequences." She turned away, furious, but there was nowhere left to turn to. She had always relied on the idea that charm would save her, that she could pivot, spin, manipulate. But charm only works when people are still listening. And her network? It didn't just vanish, it disconnected itself, one quiet exit at a time. I chose the restaurant carefully, one of those neutral, upscale places tucked between law offices and boutique banks. White tablecloths. No music, just the occasional clink of glassware and the low murmur of polite conversations. A space sterile enough that no one could cause a scene without being swiftly escorted out by someone in a black blazer. She walked in exactly 5 minutes late. That used to be her power move. Not anymore. She wore a blazer over a fitted dress, something corporate but softened with a delicate necklace I bought her on our 5th anniversary. She probably thought wearing it would signal something, nostalgia, remorse, subtle symbolism, but to me it just looked like set dressing, like she was still acting in a version of our marriage that no longer existed. "Hi," she said. sitting down slowly, not sure whether to smile or apologize. Thanks for meeting. I nodded. No handshake, no kiss on the cheek, just a nod. I let the silence breathe, let her stew in it. The waiter came. We ordered. She chose wine. I declined. You look well, she offered. Efficient, I replied. I've been efficient lately. She tried a small laugh. You've always been efficient. I missed that. I let the statement hang there like smoke from a candle that had already burned out. You've been quiet, she added, voice soft. I wasn't sure if this dinner was closure or a beginning. I opened the folder on the table and slid it across to her. A single envelope inside. Final. She looked down, confused. What's this? I said nothing. She took it out, unfolded the papers, and started reading. Her lips moved without sound as she skimmed. It didn't take long, 5 pages. Simple language, very clean, legally binding documentation of asset reallocation and execution, joint accounts, closed, split by percentage after forensic audit, vacation property, transferred, my name only, equity in the business she once begged me to invest in, bought out at valuation, funds wired to my private trust, even the car, hers to keep, leased under her name now, insurance off my plan. Her hands trembled as she reached the final page, the one that confirmed the full scope. Her voice cracked. Wait, you already filed this? I nodded. She blinked. When? A week ago. But you said we could talk. You said you needed time to think. I did, I said, and while I was thinking, I was finalizing. She set the papers down like they were radioactive. You can't just... I can, I said calmly. And I did. Everything in there is legal, clean, executed. There's no fight left, just facts. But we didn't even try to... She stopped herself, as if the sentence was too absurd to finish. I reached for my glass, iced water, and lifted it slightly. To truth, I said, however late it arrives. She didn't raise hers. Her mouth was open, but no words came. She wasn't used to this version of me, the one who didn't plead or yell, the one who simply walked through the fire and out the other side, leaving her in the ash. You're serious? She whispered, barely audible. I was serious the first time I asked about the bracelet, I said. Everything after that was just watching how deep the hole would go. She looked around the room like the walls might rescue her, but no one in that restaurant cared. To them, we were just another couple ending quietly. No drama, no scene, just a clean exit. She tried one last thing, her go-to, tears. She blinked rapidly, eyes shining, trying to force emotion into the moment like it might soften the terms. Michael, I didn't think it would end like this. I folded the folder shut. That's the problem, I said. You didn't think at all. Then I placed my napkin on the table, stood up, and buttoned my jacket. You're free now, I added, walking past her. Just not in the way you planned. I never looked back. She sat at the table with the untouched wine glass, the final documents, and a silence too heavy to lift. There was no confrontation, no screaming finale, just the quiet sound of someone realizing the story ended without them. The sky was still bleeding gray when I loaded the last of my things into the trunk. 2 suitcases, my laptop bag, a garment sleeve, and the single manila folder I'd kept with me since the hotel. I didn't slam the trunk. I didn't pause to take one last look at the house. It wasn't mine anymore. Not in spirit, not in function, not in anything that mattered. As I approached the driver's side, I caught a flicker of color near the door. At first, I thought it was trash, the way paper bags collapse when rain threatens but never falls. But as I walked closer, I saw the handles were still upright, crisp, intentional. One of her shopping bags, the same boutique branding from that night, the same sharp pink and glossy black. She'd left it untouched in the hallway after she burst through the door, keys still in the ignition, her story unraveling mid-sentence. I should have ignored it, but I didn't. I stepped onto the porch, crouched, and pulled it open. Inside, tissue paper folded neatly over 2 items. A tall, unopened bottle of perfume, not her usual brand, heavier, muskier, and beneath it, black lace lingerie, tag still on, not even tried on. Then, tucked into the fold, barely visible, was a small note card. Plain cream stock, her handwriting unmistakably hers. 5 words. I'll tell him soon. I promise. No name, no punctuation, just implication. I stood there, bag in hand, the morning still cool against my neck. She hadn't just betrayed me. She'd kept preparing for someone else. Even as I exposed the cracks, even as I slid legal documents across white linen, even as I ended the show, she'd kept scripting a next scene. She still got to choose who heard the truth and when. She played the tragic figure, forced to make impossible decisions. But the note, it wasn't meant for me. It wasn't an apology. It was a placeholder, a whisper to someone waiting in the wings, a man probably still believing she was locked in a loveless marriage, trapped, misunderstood. A man who didn't know she wasn't the only one keeping receipts. I folded the note back into the bag, smoothed the tissue paper over the perfume and lace, closed it gently, set it exactly where I'd found it, and shut the door behind me, quietly, finally. No goodbye, no message left on the counter, no spare key under the mat, just silence. Because sometimes you don't need to burn things to the ground, you just leave them exactly as they are, undisturbed, untouched, and let the rot reveal itself. She would find the bag eventually, maybe that afternoon, maybe next week. She'd see it was open, and she'd know I saw it. That would be enough, because the real consequence isn't being screamed at. It's being seen, fully, undeniably, and left behind anyway. I pulled out of the driveway with no music, no plans to return, no need to explain myself to anyone. The weight wasn't on me anymore. It never had been. She thought she could control the timing, control the damage, control the story. But stories don't wait, and this one closed itself.